In 1988, while most arcade goers were putting the pedal to the metal on Outrun, or elbow smashing their way through Double Dragon, a different kind of coin-op nightmare emerged from Namco. Forget the cute mascots and family-friendly fun, this machine was dark, brutally violent, and genuinely disturbing for its time. What's up, ghouls, and welcome back to another episode of Arcade Economy. On this show, we take a look at old arcade classics to determine just how much they would have cost to beat at the time of their release. In my last episode, we took on the Black Warriors gang to save Marion in Technos' Double Dragon. Today, we're donning the terror mask to take on the creatures in Namco's Splatterhouse. Was this game a house of horrors that rewarded skillful survival, or was it just a cheap haunted house designed to steal quarters directly from your pocket? Let's find out.
Fair warning, though, there is some graphic violence in this, but we say that for you, not your kids. They've probably already seen it.
When you think of Namco in the 80s, most people would think of bright colors and iconic sounds. Games like Pac-Man, Galaga, and Dig Dug might come to mind. But as the decade wore on, Namco saw a new demographic emerging from the VCR boom. Kids and teens who loved horror and slasher flicks. Namco decided to capitalize on this audience and enlisted Shigeru Yokoyama to direct a horror movie that you can play. Yokoyama and his team used a checklist of 80s horror tropes when developing the game, and pulled inspiration from movies like Friday the 13th, The Evil Dead, Alien, and The Fly. In November 1988, Namco released Splatterhouse into Japanese arcades, with a European and North American release to follow a few months later. Unsurprisingly, the game was one of the goriest games of its time. Splatterhouse was met with mostly positive reviews among critics, however, it sold much better in Japan than it did in the US. It's a common misconception that Splatterhouse was banned in the United States, but in reality, the arcade game just wasn't very popular, and it wasn't well stocked. It's believed that many arcade owners were afraid to purchase the cabinet for fear of public outcry and backlash from angry moms. It's kind of an anomaly to me that Splatterhouse wasn't that popular at the time of its release in arcades. I mean, it came out during this time where beat-em-ups were starting to explode. It had the super ultra violence that made Mortal Kombat really popular half-decade later. And on top of all that, it was also a really good game. It had great gameplay, an interesting story, and really captured that 80s horror movie feel. Yet, Splatterhouse flew largely under the radar, at least in North America. It wasn't the first violent game to hit arcades, yet Splatterhouse wasn't making headlines the way that Death Race did in the 70s, or how Mortal Kombat would years later.
Johnny Cage wins. Fatality.
It might have just come out at a time where people just paid little attention to it, which is a real shame. In 1990, Splatterhouse would go on to be ported to PCs, the Turbografx-16, and this thing, the FM Towns Marty. Naturally, Namco toned down the game for North American audiences. The meat cleaver was removed from the first two levels and replaced with the wooden board. This incredibly rude hand no longer flips you off. And instead of the womb boss spilling out gross embryonic fluids upon defeating it will result in a fiery explosion. Also, most of the crosses seen throughout the game were completely removed. To avoid a very expensive copyright lawsuit, Namco also had to alter the iconic terror mask for the North American release. The original design made protagonist Rick look strikingly similar to a certain hockey mask killer from Camp Crystal Lake. Instead, we got a red mask in the Turbografx port, and later iterations would see the mask becoming more of a skull. It's also interesting to note that the Turbografx port was one of the first games to include a disclaimer on it, reading, "The horrifying theme of this game may be inappropriate for young children and cowards." In 1989, 1 year before the arcade port, Namco released a cutesy spin-off for the Famicom in Japan titled Splatterhouse Wanpaku Graffiti. This game swapped out the beat-em-up elements for platforming. It's a pretty solid game and was one of the earliest games to use an experience point system. A proper sequel, Splatterhouse 2, was released for the Sega Genesis in 1992, And in 1993, Splatterhouse 3 was released with more modern beat-em-up mechanics, like the ability to move up and down on the Y-axis. Splatterhouse 3 was also one of the first games to ever be rated by Sega's Video Game Rating Council. In 2010, Bandai Namco released a modernized Splatterhouse remake for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. It received mixed reviews at the time of release, but has since been seen as a cult classic. This was the last title in the series, and despite years of sequels in the franchise, Splatterhouse never returned to the arcade after its inaugural release. The game's attract mode loosely tells the story of university students Rick Taylor and Jennifer Willis taking refuge from a storm in the West Mansion. The story got expanded upon in a comic strip advertisement for the game's release on the Turbografx, which is honestly such a great use of advertising, especially considering the time it was released. The West Mansion is often referred to as the Splatterhouse due to the rumored experiments that go on there. Once inside, Jennifer screams and everything goes dark. Rick awakens in a dungeon under the house where many of the experiments are being conducted. He discovers that an ancient Mayan mask known as the Terror Mask has attached itself to his face, giving him superhuman abilities and making him super yoked. Seriously, look at this guy, he can bench press a bus. With his newfound muscles, Rick must battle through the horrors of the Splatterhouse in order to save Jennifer. When it comes to gameplay, Splatterhouse is a traditional side-scrolling 2D beat-em-up with some light platforming. Players control Rick and can punch, jump, and attack. Attacks can be done while in air or ducking, and Rick also has a special slide attack that can be done by jumping and then pushing diagonally down on the joystick and pressing attack just before Rick's feet hit the ground. This power move can dodge attacks and clear out a good amount of enemies. It's also incredibly difficult to perform. The timing has to be precise, and it's something that I gave up on pretty early in the game. Where this game really shines is in its ability to grab multiple weapons. Using them will result in mostly instant kills on normal enemies. Weapons include a meat cleaver, a wooden board, an axe, harpoons, rocks, and a shotgun with limited ammo. Using every single one of these leaves you feeling extremely satisfied. I mean, just listen to this home run of a sound. Splatterhouse consists of 7 levels, some of which have multiple maps and branching paths, a feature that was rarely seen in arcade games at the time. If you fall down a hole, you might find yourself in a crypt or a cellar. To me, this kept the game fresh as you try to find the path that works best for you and avoid the more frustrating ones. Looking at you, Master Dead. The levels progress as you move through the mansion's property. You'll start off in a dungeon with grotesque creatures and experiments. Level 2 features more experiments and a flooded basement. Level 3 takes you outside as you make your way through the woods. Level 4 and Level 5 are the mansion's interior. And Level 5 features 9 different branching maps. That's right, 9 different maps for one level. What an insane amount, and also what a maze of a level. Level 6 and Level 7 are a little bit more straightforward. Level 6 is the womb of the house. Yes, you heard that correctly. And Level 7, you'll have to escape the property as it's burning down. The game also features a checkpoint continue system, so you will need some skill to advance to the next level, and you can't just quarter feed your way through to the end of the game. If you die and choose to continue, you'll be taken back to the beginning of the level that you perished on. I like this a lot more than say something like Contra, which makes you go all the way back to the beginning after losing all of your lives. The bosses in Splatterhouse are some of my favorite arcade game bosses to date, and you can clearly see the horror movie influence in some of them. At the end of level 1, you'll fight against a horde of body eaters, which were clearly influenced by chestbursters from the Alien franchise. I found it best to stand in the middle of the room and try to punch at any lunging body eater that gets close to you. Level 2's boss is a poltergeist, and in my opinion, it's one of the most clever uses of a boss fight that I've seen. Beating the poltergeist is all about positioning. I moved just to the left of the chandelier to avoid any falling objects. Then you'll want to get close to the chair to try and hit it mid-air while it's coming at you. The next object is knives. It's key to remember that you can punch or kick these objects while they're flying at you. Once you knock the knife to the floor, stand over it and just spam attack until you defeat it. The final form is a picture, and again, positioning is key here. You'll want to spam attack to try and bounce the picture between the wall and your fist. And then lastly, the chandelier will fall and you will take damage from this cheap shot if you're underneath it. So be sure to move towards the door as soon as you beat the picture. I learned this the hard way. Yes, let's go. I think we did it. We got the ghost. He went out the window. off! That's so stupid. Level 3's boss is Biggie Man, this dual chainsaw wielding Hulk. This level features 2 shotguns, and it is possible to defeat him using only shotgun blasts, but you'll have to carry one shotgun with you through the entire level and duck kick enemies to avoid using ammo. Personally, I don't think it's worth it because this is really hard to do. The second shotgun appears right before the Biggie Man boss fight, so make sure you use all of your rounds on him. After this, only a few more hits will kill him, but he's incredibly hard to hit. If you can manage pulling off the slide kick, it works well here, but honestly, my strategy was just to jump attack and button mash during the invincibility frames. Hey, if it works, it works. Oh, I got him, let's go! The boss for level 4 is an inverted cross, and this might be the easiest boss in the game in my opinion. The cross will surround itself with severed heads, but they're really slow moving, so I just took my time, defeated each one of the heads as it came at me, and attacked the cross when I could. Level 5 is where the game really starts to get tough. Level 5 features 1 mini-boss and 1 main boss. You'll find the mini-boss, Master Dead, if you happen to fall down a hole. He floats around resurrecting zombies. If you can avoid Master Dead altogether, that would probably be the best. But if you do have to face him, then make sure you kill the zombies first and then jump kick him and repeat. If you make it all the way to the end of level 5, you'll find out just what happened to Jennifer. She's been possessed and turns into this truly horrifying demon. Now, Demon Jenny can be really tough, and it took me a few fights to figure out just what to do. But once you know what to do, she's really not that hard. Demon Jenny will lunge at you. When this happens, you'll have to punch her while she's in the air, and then try to step away from her right afterwards to avoid her long claws. And then just rinse and repeat to defeat. After this, Rick discovers that the house is alive and has a womb. Gross. Level 6 is probably the hardest level in the game, and the level itself is harder than any of the bosses you've faced thus far. You'll have to pop these demon bubbles before they turn into demon fetuses and attach themselves to your back. That's a sentence I thought I'd never be saying in my life. When they do attach to your back, you'll have to push the joystick rapidly left and right to shake them off. Otherwise, they'll drain all of your health. When you finally get to the end of this level, you'll face off against Mother, this giant egg-laying wall. I tried to be as quick as possible to destroy any bubbles or demon fetuses before going full ham on Mother. I used a combo of punches and duck kicks and quickly took care of any eggs that managed to hatch. After defeating Mother, make sure you move to the other end of the screen because the explosion will deal damage. And then level 7, probably the easiest level to get through as it's mostly platforming. The final boss, Hell Chaos, is a little tough. I found it best to stand a little over arm's length away from him as he rose from the ground, then move in close once the debris starts falling down. Doing so should help you avoid any falling debris. 2 hands will come up and swipe at you during the battle. The moment you see them, just move or jump to the opposite direction to avoid them. If they both rise at the same time, then just jump right in the middle of them. It's mostly about timing, but I didn't find it too hard to master. If you've defeated Hell Chaos, then congratulations, you've survived the Splatterhouse. Hopefully your wallet did too. And now it's time to find out just how much I spent to beat Splatterhouse. If you're new here, then I'll have you know that I play these games with an arcade joystick on an emulator on their default settings. For Splatterhouse, that means that I played on rank A or standard settings, which means that I got 4 hit points and 3 lives. Like I've said before, losing all 3 lives will result in you going all the way back to the beginning of the level that you died on. I set up a counter to increase every time I hit the insert coin button, and for Splatterhouse, it took me 2 play sessions to beat the game. This was because on my first play session, I wasn't paying attention during a continue screen, and it went all the way down to the beginning, and I had already made it to level 5, so then I had to start all the way over from the beginning again, which was when I started my second session. Oh no! I didn't continue in time. My first play session took about an hour and a half, and my second play session took about an hour and 15 minutes. When it was all said and done, I only spent $9, or 36 credits. In 1988, spending $9 would feel like spending $24.24 today. And my total play session was 2 hours and 45 minutes, which factors out to only 5 cents per minute. I also do want to let it be known that if I didn't let the timer run out for the continue, I probably would have beat this game with less time and less money. For the bosses, I spent 25 cents on the Body Eaters, 50 cents on the Poltergeist, 50 cents on Biggie Man, no credits on the Inverted Cross, $1 on Master Dead, $1 on Jenny, 50 cents on Mother, and 50 cents on Hell Chaos. Which brings my boss total to $4.25. And now it's time to bust out the Predatory game scale to determine just how predatory Splatterhouse was in stealing your money. At $9, the cost was higher than most beat-em-ups. However, the cost per minute being 5 cents is extremely low. So I actually do think you get your money's worth when playing Splatterhouse. I mean, by this rate, that means that 1/4 could last you 5 full minutes. For unfair difficulty or AI cheating, sure, this game was hard, but I didn't notice really anything unfair about it. Some of the cheap shots, I guess, are a little unfair, like the chandelier falling from the ceiling or Mother exploding. And maybe some of the bosses were hard to dodge or hit, like Mirror Rick or Biggie Man, but it wasn't anything egregious like I've seen in other games. For punitive game mechanics, the game controls and feels great. Some things to note are that the jump slide kick is really hard to pull off, the continue system that sends you back to the beginning of the level, and there's no health pickups throughout the game. Even if you progress through one level to the next, your health will still remain where it was at the level prior. Although you can get an extra life if you do get a high enough score. The one more try appeal. For me, this was really high. I really enjoy horror movies, and the game just really hit for me. I wanted to keep playing and see what was next, and see what the next level looked like, and what the next bosses were going to be, and try to uncover the different horror movie tropes and influences. I really did want to keep playing, which leads to my overall enjoyment. What a really fun game that I just really enjoyed and was excited to dive into. And I do think this game, in some aspects, is way ahead of its time, and it is kind of a shame that it got overlooked at the time of its release. I am very much looking forward to jumping into some of the sequels, though. So all of that considered, and Splatterhouse gets a Predatory game score of a 7 out of 10. Now, can you play this game today? Yes, you can, on Namco Museum for the Nintendo Switch. And if you are interested, I will leave an affiliate link in my description. Next time on Arcade Economy, we're sticking with the horror theme and shooting our way through Carnival. So make sure you come back for that video. If you would like to support Mass Replay and Arcade Economy, then you can do so by becoming a YouTube member or a patron on Patreon. Your support is much appreciated, and you'll get some cool perks. At the VIP viewer level, you'll be able to view all my videos early and ad-free, plus access to the Arcade Economy live stream so you can watch me play through these games in real time. But honestly, just you watching my videos supports me, so thank you so much. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Please let me know in the comments what other videos you'd like to see me do, and hopefully I will see you on my next video.